This is a brain that loves to wander around and give head to my bad. Eats the heads of people. The plot revolves around an evil scientist named Dr. Blake. He runs a self-improvement TV show called Independent Thinking. The purpose of the show is to brainwash people, and he does it with the help of a weird brain monster. So, in the opening of the movie, we were introduced to Becky, the teenage daughter of couch potato Susan. The mother is watching the show while Becky, who is also a patient of Dr. Blake, starts seeing things in her room. Her teddy bear starts nodding its head, but Becky's facial expressions made it cry with blood. First off, I just want to say, what type of Toy Story gone wrong shit is this? And you have love how the bear cries less from its eyes and more from his cheekbone. Becky tries to leave the room, but a monster hands arise out of the TV and the door to try to end her. So she runs to the other side of the room, only to get violated by tentacles bursting out of the wall. Everything gets back to normal, and her mother comes in to check on her. This Coca-Cola mascot looking teddy bear sees her mother and becomes angry again. A tentacle comes out of it and it starts strangling her mother. Becky starts stabbing the tentacle and ends up putting her mother in a coffin. It's then revealed that she has been hallucinating, and she just sent her mother to God. Out of nowhere, a large floating brain crashes through her mirror to try to give her a kiss, only to violate her by teaching her how to fly from the 3rd floor. Now that's a hell of a way to start a movie. Cut to the next day, and we are introduced to our main protagonist, Jim, who is a smart but also mischievous high school student. We are then also introduced to his girlfriend, Janet. Before Jim had his class, he stopped by the bathroom to pour pure sodium into the toilet. In case you fell asleep in science class, pure sodium tends to have a volatile reaction with water, so this shouldn't be good. The water explodes out of all the fountains and taps, and unfortunately a teacher was present there. What's even more stupid is there's a disclaimer at the end of this film telling you to not try this at home. It turns out that Jim is not just a troublemaker. He also possesses the highest IQ, but his energy is primarily directed into
causing trouble.
This ignorant stunt makes his parents reach out to the point that Jim should see a famous psychologist, Dr. Blake. Jim agrees somehow and leaves the room, but not before Jim gets one last laugh at the teacher's face. Later that night, Jim and Janet get down and dirty, but get interrupted by 2 monsters, which turns out to be their friends. A cop sees this, comes over, and then ruins the fun. Anyways, the next day, Jim comes to the Psychological Research Institute. In a mysterious looking room, Dr. Blake starts running tests on Jim by attaching diodes to his head. As a result, he starts hallucinating, which pisses him off, and then he runs out of the building. Also, it's been revealed that the brain eats mice. What? Dr. Blake's beautiful assistant begins to argue with Dr. Blake, and the brain gets angry. Apparently, the brain can't tolerate anything against Dr. Blake. That's what we call relationship goals. It leaves out of the jar and attacks the pretty girl for the sake of Dr. Blake. She has become food for thought. Jim continues to suffer from weird hallucinations, which result in crashing his car. He then comes to seek help from his friends, but Dr. Blake has sent his other assistant, Verna, played here by George Buzzer, to collect him. Later, Jim awakens in a white room, but fortunately, he came out with help from another mental patient who believes that Dr. Blake is an alien that is controlling people's minds. Eventually, his girlfriend Janet and friend Willie show up, but the brain fails their daring escape. I love how fast this brain grows in the movie. Imagine what would be the situation if our brains would grow with such speed. This time, Willie becomes the meal for a much larger brain. Jim and Janet barely escaped the institute, but were found by a cunning police officer. Meanwhile, Blake's assistant shows up to perform his chopping skills, and the police officer lost his mind. However, Jim and Janet successfully escape the axe-wielding wild man. Dr. Blake comes live on the TV to brainwash the entire town and convince them that Jim is a killer and must be stopped. But even worse happened when he triggered a woman in the show. It seems like he's on a mission to generate crazy wives. A woman watching the show goes outside to ask her husband to watch Independent Thinking with her. The husband refuses to watch the show with her, so you know what she does? She grabs his chainsaw and puts him to eternal sleep. But wait a minute. Is it the same teacher who started all this drama? Then go for it, girl. This dude is the guiltiest. She kills him with the chainsaw and blames it on Jim. Jim and Janet witnessed the whole scene and entered the school and came to the realization that they cannot trust anyone. Jim realizes that killing the brain will bring things back to normal. For a guy with the highest IQ, he should have understood that point way earlier. Anyways, lovers didn't miss the chance of having some fun after a long phase of hiding and seek. Janet then wanders off and for some reason finds a TV. Her dumbass started watching Independent Thinking and surprise, surprise, she is now brainwashed. How do you lose a chess game if you have seen all the moves? Janet is a special one. Jim escapes from the high school and makes his way to the Psychological Research Institute to stop Dr. Blake's show from going live nationwide. The killer brain appears to be digitally modern as it can talk in text messages. Anyways, Jim successfully enters the institute, but it is stopped by that pretty Blake's assistant. Apparently, that was his hallucination, and this time it didn't work. Finally, he makes his way to Dr. Blake and confronts him live on air and punches his head clear off. He dies in a green slimy mess, and in a brain twist of events, we find out Dr. Blake is actually an alien. Jim tries to convince the audience that they are being brainwashed, but he's interrupted by Verna. While trying to escape this time, Jim rescues Janet first, who is now no longer brainwashed. The end. You really thought it was over. The villain of the movie, the brain, has yet to come. It looks like the brain has gained a lot of weight. Human eating seems to be a fatty diet. This time, it's Verna's turn, who has been doing nothing but only running after Jim in the whole movie. The giant brain corners Jim and Janet, but Jim repeats his sodium prank. But this time, it was much needed. He throws a big bottle of pure sodium on the brain and it explodes. Just like the toilet did earlier in the movie, but this time with more slime and sparkles. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give a thumbs up and hit the notification bell icon so that you do not miss the latest video updates. See you in the next video with another movie review. Until next time, binge your caps.